Good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 21st. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Scally. How you doing, Scally?
Oh, hello, Taran. Today I feel like I am living through my own personal dire fest, given some of the results of yesterday, but we're going okay. We'll get through
All right. Well,
it.
we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 24 live feeds. It was day 46 in the house, and it's still running. We've still got some things that are happening. Some intrigue is going on. Things are continuing to shift and change, and we're going to talk about it all today.
Yeah, definitely, these two sides of the house, lots of stuff still going on despite only having 5 people in each little section. So interesting to talk about.
All right. So, as things have been for this week, we are still split outside and inside. And so the update will be split outside and inside. So we're going to start outside this time. I'm going to start outside. Now, outside, Terrence is the HOH. It's a group of Terrence, Joseph, Kyle, Alyssa, and Turner. Terrence initially was looking to target Joseph and was initially thinking Kyle and Alyssa on the block to backdoor Joseph before Alyssa convinced him Kyle and Joseph on the block because you don't need to bother backdooring Joseph. Before Kyle ratted out the leftovers to both Alyssa and Terrence and convinced him to nominate both Turner and Joseph to ensure that one of them went home. He did so. And the plan has been in place to evict whichever one of them doesn't win the veto. If both of them don't win the veto, then Joseph is the target. And Kyle's plan is for Terrence, Alyssa, and himself to join back up with Michael and Brittany on the other side. So we get to the veto outside. It's do or die for Joseph and or Turner, really. If Joseph doesn't win, he's basically out. If Turner doesn't win, he should be okay as long as Joseph doesn't win, in which case he's basically out. So we get to the competition, and the winner of the veto is Terrence.
I knew I wanted Indy to stay. Yeah, I feel like so many people are just like, no, go back. We made the wrong choice. What happened? Why did Terrence come through with 2 competition wins this week? How did that happen?
Well, however it happened, Terrence has won the veto. It's very possible. I'm not sure. I didn't pay a lot of attention to what the order of what happened was, like who came close or anything. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Kyle had the option, if he would have thrown this to Terrence in some way. But either way, Terrence has won the veto. And that means that things are looking pretty dire for Joseph and Turner, particularly Joseph, especially because they don't yet know that Kyle has ratted them out. Throughout the day, they are going to, whether or not they have any suspicions that it happened, they are going to fully act as though they don't know that it has happened. And that, of course, means that their arguments are limited when it comes to what they can say to Terrence, because their only hope of both staying at this point is to kind of band together and sort of re-rat Kyle out and sort of do the same thing Kyle did to them, except reverse, and with Kyle being the one to go instead.
Yeah, it's tough to watch Joseph be like, I'm gonna do this argument for the 3 of us. If I have to go down for the ship, that's what it's gonna be. And it's so frustrating to watch because he just doesn't realize that the ship has turned on him.
Yeah, and so my thought was, if I'm Joseph and Turner, that obviously Again, they don't know that Kyle has ratted them out, but I do think there's a small chance that they can turn Terrence here, and I think the only real opening is that because the problem is that Kyle has already spilled everything about the leftovers, and he has a lot of evidence to back him up. He's got Alyssa, who Terrence knows is on the outside of the group. Which means it would make sense that Kyle is no longer in the group or willing to betray the group. And then also the Taylor being mad at him in the storage room after the veto not being used. Like a lot of things line up. Kyle has told him basically all of the information, except for one small little fact Kyle did leave out, which is that Kyle has always seen himself as the creator of the Leftover Alliance, because Alyssa's the one that told him about Old School. He used that information to create the Leftover Alliance. He told Terrence that it was Amira telling Joseph about the Old School Alliance that caused Joseph to create the alliance. So in my opinion, the only way for Joseph and Turner to flip this around is if they tell Terrence the real story, that, hey, it was Alyssa that outed the Old School Alliance to Kyle, which caused Kyle to create an alliance called the Leftovers. He is the true mastermind of the season. Of course, they don't know what Terrence knows, and they don't know what Terrence doesn't know either. But if they tell him the full truth and he starts asking questions, I think there's a small chance that it could work. And I'm giving you this whole theory about what they could do, not because they're going to or that it's likely that they will at all, mostly just because there's not a lot else to talk about, and it was what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah, the thing is that they're part of the way there. So I did hear them discussing, like,
Yes.
all right, so what we need to do is we need to talk about how Alyssa outed Old School, and so she can't be trusted, and we can really play on that. Now, they're obviously not going forward and saying, and that's why Kyle organized the Leftovers, and that's why Kyle's the problem, and that's why Kyle should go home. Like, so I think it's still going to be tough to convince Terrence to target Alyssa, because if this was another player, I might have more faith in them or more expectations in them to pull on the threads of that conversation. But I think Terrence is unlikely to be asking the right questions. And so I don't know if without their pushing that he gets there.
Yes, exactly. So Joseph does come up with a plan that it's sort of like, it's like the first step to the plan that I outlined. It just doesn't include the rest of the steps. Again, because he's not ratting Kyle out. He's still like, he's doing this sort of like, I'd call it a half step, but it's more of like a quarter step of like ratting out Alyssa to try to get Alyssa nominated. So his plan, Joseph's plan that he comes up with, first of all, like the plan itself, again, is like a half measure. And then the thing that turns it into a quarter measure for me is that he's also telling Kyle about it ahead of time. So he tells Kyle and Turner, hey, here's the plan. We rat Alyssa out, say that Alyssa outed the Old School Alliance. And Alyssa basically is the reason why that alliance didn't work out, and that Turner, or that Terrence, is in this position because of Alyssa, and Alyssa's bad, and just throw Alyssa under the bus, try to get him to nominate Alyssa. And it's not gonna be Alyssa. It has to be Kyle. It has to be Kyle that he throws under the bus. Terrence is gonna say later in the night, we'll talk about it, he's not going to make a whack move. And I think that he thinks that Alyssa is a whack move. And Joseph is not a whack move. And so, thing is, Kyle would be, and that's why it needs to be Kyle. So Kyle is like, yeah, sure, let's try this. Probably won't work, but I'm down to try.
Yeah. He doesn't try. No.
Yeah.
Goes over, has completely separate conversations, just doubles down on everything. And, one conversation with Terrence comes back to Turner and Joseph and tells them, like, well, I really tried, guys. I hope it works. Like, fingers crossed.
Yeah. So Turner, he's going to talk to Turner and Alyssa a little bit later. And Kyle is thinking more and more and more. And he says, look, Turner, Alyssa, I really feel like the other side of that house, the insiders, they're going to be really bonded this week. They're going to be, he's been thinking, he really feels like Michael, thinking about it, probably isn't going to take the shot at Monty. And they're probably all going to bond over taking out Jasmine. And what that means is that they need to stick together, Turner, Kyle, and Alyssa, moving forward. Turner agrees. He says, look, I don't think Terrence is using this veto. Turner, unfortunately, is not going to tie himself to Joseph here and try to pitch to Terrence either. He is mostly just like, you know what? I'm not the target. Joseph can pitch all he wants to try and save the both of us, but as things stand, Kyle and Alyssa are keeping me over Joseph, so I'm surviving. And so he says basically, yeah, I don't think Terrence is using it, so we're sitting pretty, right? You guys, you're keeping me? They're like, of course we're keeping you. Absolutely. And he's like, well, that's great. So maybe what we need to do then, Kyle, is go to Terrence at some point and pitch to him that all four of us need to stick together against the four that are inside. And Kyle's like, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And he's like, okay, I trust you guys with my life. Here we go. So Kyle is successfully using this position of power over Turner's life in the game to get Turner to basically agree with the position moving forward and pull Turner in, which is actually really huge for Kyle if it sticks, right? Because if he has Turner, he doesn't really need Michael and Brittany quite as much. And that's very, very big. And we'll get to that in just a second. But the main thing here, Turner, at least to Kyle and Alyssa's face, since they do have the vote over him this week, is very much saying, I'm willing to play ball with whatever direction you want me to go in. I don't know how genuine it is, but given Turner's track record in the game, he's not really like a super deceptive player. I kind of feel like this is probably pretty genuine for now.
Yeah, and I feel like from Turner's perspective, like he has no reason to really fight that hard for Joseph versus Kyle because he doesn't know, or at least is not telling us or making any indication that he knows that Kyle has like sold out the alliance, has been like super self-interested and will sell anyone out at the drop of a hat for himself or Alyssa. So for Turner, it's like, why am I going to get blood on my hands when like two equally good allies from his perspective are at risk of leaving for himself? Obviously.
Yes. So Joseph is going to pitch to Kyle again. Hold on. I've got some more ideas. He says, first of all, I think I can pitch to Terrence that there's an alliance on the other side of the house. But don't worry. I'm not going to say that you and Turner are in on it. I'm not going to throw you guys under the bus. I'm just going to tell him like, hey, Michael and Brittany and like Taylor and Monty, maybe like they're all going to be working together. And you're going to need me, Terrence, to help against that other side. But Kyle, I need you to support me on this. I need you to like help me like plant some seeds with Terrence. Like I need you to lay the groundwork for this for me. Kyle's like, absolutely, I will definitely do that for you. Joseph says, really though, I am concerned. I do think that Michael, Brittany, and Taylor must have an alliance. I mean, he picked Brittany and Taylor to be safe. In the thing, they probably have a final three. So genuinely, we can't lose any of the guys in the pound because if we do, then we no longer have the numbers advantage in the leftovers. And Kyle, let me tell you, they are not happy with you about not using the veto last week. I don't know what they're telling you, but they are definitely not pleased. And if you go into that house without me, they're going to turn on you. They're going to come for you. And they're going to come for Turner because Turner was supporting you in that conversation. So basically, like, you need me in this game. I will vouch for you with the other side. If you keep me around, I'll be like, yeah, Kyle really, stood up for me, saved me in that situation. Like, look, Kyle, Indy left last week and it tore my heart. Bro, no offense, but it's your turn. Alyssa has to go. And Kyle says, I'm prepared to do it. I just don't know if it's an option, but yeah, I'll help.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Joseph, the pound versus the rest of the leftovers is not the divide that Kyle is looking for in the house. So unfortunate that Joseph is not able to. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But yeah, very unfortunate that like he's operating around stuff that he couldn't possibly know.
Yeah. So Kyle goes to help and lay the groundwork with Terrence. He goes to Terrence and he says, so Terrence, here's what Joseph is about to tell you. He's about to tell you that there's an alliance on the other side that doesn't include me and Turner, and that like all this other stuff. I told him I'd go along with it because I know Joseph's loyalty is really with Monty and Taylor. So he's gonna try to pin the old school thing on Alyssa to protect the boys, of course. But we both know it was Amira that ratted out the old school alliance. And Terrence is like, yeah. And so can't trust any of that coming out. Terrence says, well, okay, so Kyle, obviously Joseph leaving. What should be the plan when we go inside and the other side, like what happens if the other side, they went soft and they took out Jasmine? What do we do? That means we don't have Michael and Brittany probably. And Kyle's like, well, I've been thinking about that. And I do think that Michael probably did take the safe route. And he probably is taking out Jasmine right now. And Terrence is like, oh, I would never come back with a whack move like that. And so Kyle is like, so I'm thinking, I was talking to Turner about how the inside people are probably bonding and we're already in this alliance. So I think I was telling him, I think we have to be prepared for that. I think we have to pull Turner in. And I think he'd be willing to come on board. So my plan would be, because you won the HOH and veto, I theoretically have no blood on my hands. So I can still like get in with that group and give information and all of that. And we can sort of like there are different ways that we can blame certain people, right? So Kyle has an idea that if it comes out that the leftovers have been exposed, he's gonna basically either blame Joseph, or I'll give you his backup plan right here. He's gonna say he's gonna try and convince Turner to tell Terrence about leftovers in just a second. But he says, if I win the HOH, of course, it's Monty and Michael on the block. And Monty has to go. He has been running the game. Monty is the one that needs to leave. But just put them both up on the block at this point. And he even goes ahead and says, oh, did I ever tell you the name of the alliance? It was called The Leftovers. So he thinks at this point with the other side, he thinks Michael is probably taking Joseph's spot in the group because Joseph, Monty, and Taylor were the ones always running the show. But now Michael is going to be taking the place of Joseph. And so they really need to be solid as a group going into the other side. And Terrence is all pumped up about how they're going to trick the other side into not thinking that they're solid. And of course, the way that they're going to trick the other side into not thinking that they're solid is by allowing Kyle to play double agent as much as possible and be as safe as possible in the coming round. It's going to be so funny when you do that, Kyle. And Kyle's like, yeah, so funny. And Terrence is like, yeah, the only thing, because Kyle's like, okay, so how do we pull Turner in? And Terrence is like, the only thing is that I want him to stop lying to me. He keeps lying to me about the leftovers and all of this stuff. And Kyle's like, don't worry. I think that basically I can talk to him and try to like encourage him like, hey, I think we need to tell Terrence about everything. I think we need to tell Terrence the truth. And I can basically encourage him to tell you about everything. And Terrence is like, perfect. Because I wouldn't feel comfortable going in with him if he's still lying to me. And Kyle's like, I think I can get him to tell you the truth. So Kyle is now going to try to get Turner to be the one that exposes the leftovers to Terrence, or at least be complicit with Kyle in doing so. And that's Kyle's side. He's going to go back to Joseph, and Joseph is like, so did you do it? Did you plant the seeds? And Kyle says, yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's what he's been doing the whole time. Just like, I'm totally pitching what we're talking about. I'm definitely not having other conversations. And it's almost giving him cover to be talking to Terrence more and expose more and more info about each other's games. So it's very unfortunate in that way. Him pitching Michael as a target is so good for his game. Like realizing that actually Michael should be going home. Previously, he was really reliant on Michael and Brittany because Turner was very much of the mindset of flippers never win. And now, due to this like artificial splitting of the house, he's basically been able to isolate Turner and at least get him to agree to flip on the other side of the leftovers. Whether or not that's true or not, we'll see. But it's been like huge for his game that he's realized that maybe we should be targeting Michael sooner than later as well.
Yeah. And I've got to say, I mean, the work that Kyle is doing out in that backyard is pretty impressive. Kyle minus the canoodling with Alyssa has really turned him into a killer out there. And not only did he, ensure that he was safe this week with Terrence by pulling off the leftover ratting out move, he is now working on, again, if this works, the key to all of this is that Turner actually is with him and actually is willing to do these things. But being able to pull in Turner, having a solid 4 moving into the other side, recognizing that Michael is a threat before Michael has a chance to potentially take a shot at him. Really, the only downside in his plan is that he's still planning to take Monty out before Michael. And the only way that fails is if Monty wins the veto over Michael or anyone else, right? And that would be a mistake because that would allow Michael to retaliate against Kyle. And I think that's a much more dangerous proposition. But Kyle is certainly in a considerably better position than he was even just a few days ago. And things are looking very bright for Kyle in the game, except the feeds then go down. We have reason to believe it's because of a wall yeller. And I think to sort of the collective message of, yeah, what did you think was going to happen, production? When you stick people outside 24/7, you've had this problem when people are outside for like hours at a time. Of course, there are going to be wall yellers. What were you thinking? Surely you had a plan in place that was better than just like, well, hopefully we'll be able to sound the sirens and drown out the noise in time. Like, oh yeah, great plan. 24/7, you're going to be able to do that? Oh man, I'm so happy that you were so prepared for this production and that you don't need to shut the feeds down indefinitely because it happened.
Yeah, those wall yellers were always coming. The moment that we found out they were living outside, the entirety of Twitter was like, so who's wall yelling this week? Like, who's on it? Let's find out. So, yeah, and especially just as things have gotten more and more dire for what I would say is the majority of fans' favorites, definitely saw this coming.
Yeah. Now, I'll be clear. I don't expect this to actually change anything. It never really does. I mean, the thing you have to like take into consideration is that like you can maybe get a couple of words in, but unless it's something like really obvious, like, hey, Nicole is the one, Davon, that they can't counter. They can't counter in the like they can't be like, that's not true, Davon. Like it's the beans are out at that point. And so instead they'll just shut the feeds down to retaliate against you, and you'll never get to see that confrontation. If it's something like this, like I fully expect that they would be like, Terrence, Kyle's not a liar. Like if he actually heard it, do you guys expect any better? Like, I don't think this is going to do much, but, we'll see.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just like Terrence has proven over and over. Just the last person in his ear is generally going to be the person who gets their way. And the wall yeller is not going to be the last person. So, I mean, I'm hoping that it did something, but I am not optimistic.
Yeah. And, of course, like everyone already knows my stance on wall yellers. I don't like them. I don't think that you should do it. But this is definitely one of those situations where it's just like, I mean, what are you thinking? Like, of course this is going to happen. Like, you can't stop a mob from, like somebody's going to do it. And when they're out there 24/7, like what are you thinking? Not to mention the fact that the audio out there sucks anyway.
Yeah, planes going by all day, just like random rattling. There's so much noise. It is rough. Definitely rough to hear them like try to whisper over each other, because it's not as even if they can separate and have free conversations. Like, no, you're 10 feet away max.
Yeah, wall yellers are kind of like the twists of that the fans come up with. Like, you always think it's gonna work out, but then it always just backfires on you. But you keep doing it every time.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
So that's what happens outside. That's what's going on there. So let's head inside.
Yeah, I want to do, just before we do head inside.
Okay.
I would say that obviously it's not looking good for Joseph. Feel like people will point to, like, Joseph did not play this week well, played last week very poorly. And there's going to be like, all right, well, Joseph did not play, like, optimally, even though things were against him. Unfortunately for Joseph, what he can't know is that, like, no matter what he did, I feel like no matter what his relationship was with Kyle, this artificial split has, like, kind of screwed him royally, especially because the main motivation behind Joseph and or Monty or anyone else going home is that they're not white. So extremely frustrating when, like, you have Monty, Joseph, and Taylor and Turner, who are, like, basically equally hanging out, like, away from Kyle. Like, he has a little bit of a better relationship with Turner, but, like, I wonder why that is, that he's pursued that. So very frustrating that regardless of how Joseph plays this game, like, that is one factor that is just always going to be against him this week. And anything stemming from there, like, I have a hard time criticizing for.
All right. Well, there's more to talk about.
Yep. Yep.
If you thought the outside was the most intriguing bit, you should be questioning yourself, because I've always been saving the more intriguing bit for second, and I've been going inside first the last couple of days. Why am I doing inside last this time? Uh-oh, what's happening inside? Well, first of all, what's happening inside is that Jasmine is going to give some pitches to Michael and Brittany. And of course, they're not going to land because there's nothing to be done here on Jasmine's end. What can Jasmine do? Nothing.
Yeah. Why would they?
It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
But, oh, sorry. They really want the transition music. Check out the eventual BB5 documentary for more on the transition music whenever that comes out. So Monty is going to have a conversation with Taylor. Now, remember what's happening here on the inside. It's Michael, Brittany, Taylor, Monty, and Jasmine. Michael nominated Jasmine and Monty for eviction. Then Brittany won the veto and is, of course, going to choose to not use the veto. Michael and Brittany had a conversation the night that he won, talking about, should we use this opportunity to take out Monty? They decided against it because they figured that locking in the relationship with Monty and Taylor and solidifying that was more valuable, especially if Kyle is going to make a move on the other side. They went through all the scenarios. We talked through all those scenarios a couple of days ago. And so now Brittany holds this veto, still intends to not use it. They still intend to take Jasmine out. And the night before, on day 45, Monty, Taylor, Michael, and Brittany all came together and solidified that they were going to make a final four and or final five, assuming Joseph comes back. So Monty is going to talk to Taylor about this and about what's happening here on the other side. They talk about what to do. Monty had come up with an idea of, like, wouldn't it be fun if we pretended that I won the veto and that's why Jasmine left instead of me? Like, wouldn't that be fun? Probably too cute. Well, we're not going to do it, but wouldn't it be fun? It would be fun. Why don't you do it? Why not?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I would like to see it, please.
They need to divide and conquer. They need to figure out what really happened on the other side, because the fact that they're thinking about potentially lying about what happened on their side means that the other side could also absolutely be lying about what happens on their side, especially if something goes wrong and Joseph is not there anymore. So what they want to do is, like, separate out the other four, get all of their stories individually, and see if anything doesn't match up. See if things seem like somebody's messing up the story and somebody's lying.
Yeah, I like this. Divide and conquer. Like, you think Terrence is repeating that story word for word? That's not happening. So I think that there's a number of weak links. Like, Alyssa's not leaking. Please, it's happening.
Monty says if Joseph doesn't come back, the only way that Kyle is not screwed with them is if he has a really good excuse. And Taylor says, no, there are no excuses. He's already shown what his priorities are. And Monty's like, yeah, true. Basically, if Joseph is not coming back in these through those doors, Kyle's done. No more Kyle. And then they agree. Then Monty decides, all right, let's talk about Michael, because remember, and this is me talking, not Monty, for a second. I want you, the audience, to remember that the last time Michael won HOH, and he was considering taking out Monty, Monty decided that was the perfect time to start talking about when he wanted to take a shot at Michael within the alliance. And he started talking to Kyle and other people about taking the shot at Michael at 7. He wanted Michael to be the first person out within the leftovers, which is a large reason why Michael has been working to cause friction within the leftovers so that he moves up in that estimation, and successfully so, because now Monty is not looking to take Michael out at 7. Instead, he's looking to take Michael out probably at 4 or 5. And the reason why is that he's saying, look, did you see that veto competition? I was paying attention to Michael's answers. It was the stay or fold competition, remember? And in the stay or fold competition, you're trying to estimate like how many things are in a thing, and you write down a number, and you can either submit your number or not submit your number, stay or fold. And if you don't submit, you can't be eliminated, but you won't get a point if you're the closest. And a strategy that you can use in this competition is that if you fold every time, you can basically ensure that like one person doesn't win, because you can just like wait until they go. Anyway, Michael is folding a lot, probably strategically for the purposes of this competition to make sure that certain people don't win. But Monty is paying attention to Michael's answers, and all of these answers that Michael is folding, they'd be winning. They'd be getting the points. He said if Michael hadn't been folding all the time, Michael would have easily won that competition. And look, Taylor, I'm definitely down with the group, but we do need to think about how good this guy is at competitions, and also the fact that he is never going to choose any of us over Brittany. And Taylor says, well, I do think Brittany knows that she can't beat Michael in the end. And she says this because Brittany has had those conversations with Taylor, and they've talked about in their final 3 how they will cut Michael to take each other to the end, and that they know that's the winning move because they both can't beat Michael. And so she's trying to sort of be like, well, I do think we'd have Brittany on board because she knows she can't beat Michael. So he might not cut her, but she might be willing to cut him, is kind of the message. Monty says, well, what I'm thinking about is once we get to 5, like assuming Joseph comes back in, the move has to be Michael out first. And that's got to be the play. And hopefully Joseph does come back in, because surely Kyle won't have taken a shot at Joseph. He has to know he'd lose me if he does that. And surely he values his relationship with me enough that he wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, it's not. Why would he ever like purposefully lose Monty? That seems completely out of character for Kyle.
Yeah. So it's at this point that I'm like, okay, Monty is doing this again. Why is it like that Monty decides? He even says in this conversation, like, I've just kind of been chilling, sleeping for 3 weeks. It's time to start playing the game. It's like, why do you decide to start playing the game against Michael while he is in power and you are on the block?
Yeah, these are all good thoughts. It's just the wrong time, wrong place. Like, let's just slow it down. Maybe even next week we start like planting the seeds, but it's way too early, first of all. And then especially while he's currently in power and things are the way that they are set up in the house, it is the exact wrong time to be pitching this.
Yeah. But at this point, it's like, okay, I don't think this is going to change anything. First of all, Taylor has no reason to tell Brittany and Michael any of this. Like, it's all far down the line. Final 5. They don't even know if Joseph is even there on the other side yet. So it's all speculative. All it really is Monty telling Taylor, like, hey, you and me. And that's all he needed to say was, hey, you and me prioritize each other. but instead it was about targeting somebody else. But anyway, all it really means is that, hey, Monty's going to be looking out for Taylor, and that's not something that she needs to share with anybody. Like,
No.
getting to the 5, that's great. That's perfect. Like, just leave it as is. It doesn't really benefit anybody to tell anybody about this. And honestly, even if she did tell Brittany or Michael, I'm feeling like, okay, that's fine. If anything, they should feel reassured that Monty is talking about waiting until 5, because that's still quite the distance from now, at least. Not taking a shot at 8, 7, or 6. That's pretty good. And Joseph isn't even going to be there. So, like, what are you going to do there? So I'm feeling pretty like, okay, I don't think this is going to really matter at this point. Now, we are going to get Brittany talking to the cameras. She gives a lengthy explanation about her like meditation practice, and I was like Brittany, that sounds great, but I'm pretty sure that I can't sign up for your thing. She also talks, the important bit here is that she talks about how she's made a best friend in the house, and she really is okay with getting second place to him. Doesn't mean she's going to stop trying to win. She does think there's still a chance that she can convince the jury that she has done a lot of important and good gameplay in the game, and that she should deserve to win over Michael. But the biggest point here is that what she's saying to Taylor about taking Michael out is not really being corroborated by what she's saying to the cameras in terms of her willingness to lose to Michael if it comes down to that. She's very much okay with that. I think she'd also be okay with Taylor beating Michael and taking her over Michael, and either winning against Taylor or losing against Taylor as well. But she is definitely not like looking to cut Michael certainly any sooner than the final 3. And even in the final 3, I think she's perfectly fine in that spot. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. I mean, for Brittany, and I tweeted about this, but basically, if Brittany is willing to throw her game away for Michael, and I don't think that she is going to do so at the final 8. Like, I don't think that she's going to, completely screw herself out of a winning chances. But if she's so happy to take him to final 2 and throw her game away, then, like, I would hope Brittany would be willing to throw her game away for things that are more important than Michael winning Big Brother, but we've yet to see that. So still waiting on that one. I don't know. It's tough for, sure, Taylor has no reason to tell this, but Monty had no reason to be pitching Kyle this early. Taylor's had no reason to do her stuff. So we'll see. I'm still a little nervous.
Yeah, so then we're gonna get there was a conversation with Taylor and Brittany and Michael, and she was like, "Yeah, Monty's chill, he's 100%, don't worry about it." And then there was a private conversation between Taylor and Brittany where Taylor said, "Hey, so I was talking to Monty earlier," and I'm like, Taylor, hold on,
Taylor.
Oh no.
She says, so basically, he's looking to take a shot at Michael when we get to 5. And I'm like,
yeah. It's just like, if you think you could trust Brittany with the information, you're probably wrong. Like, we could have just told Brittany this like weeks down the line. That would have been fine, but no. But no.
Yeah. So she says, Brittany, this is great for us because let's be real, Michael is going to be harder to beat in competitions than Monty or Joseph. So, like, we can still have our plan of like getting to the end with one of these guys and then evicting him. It just doesn't have to be Michael. It could be Joseph. Joseph is way worse at competitions than Michael. What if we went to the final 3 with Joseph instead of Michael? Wouldn't that be so great for us? Then we evict him and we take each other and we win the game just like before, except we don't have to beat Michael. It's a much better idea. And Brittany's like, yeah, definitely a much better. I'd definitely love to sub out my ally for your ally. 100%. Totally on board. And Taylor's like, yeah, I totally had my heart set out on the final 3 with Michael, but this could be pretty good. I think, if Michael and Joseph team up together, take out Michael at 5, like, oh man, blood's not on our hands. And Brittany's like, yeah, I guess that would be easier for me because I wouldn't have to do it myself. It's at this point that I'm realizing, hold on, I don't think I fully thought this through when I was thinking of it originally, because I did not account for the fact that I have the knowledge that Joseph is already 1 foot out the door. If and when, I think, Brittany goes to Michael with this information, what might concern them is the talk about Monty and Joseph, because they don't know that Joseph is leaving. And if Joseph doesn't leave on the other side, and they now know that Monty and Joseph will be looking to team up, potentially even with Taylor on board, to take out Michael, then they may feel like, oh crap, we need to at least get one of Monty or Joseph out, and we don't know for sure that Joseph is going out. For all we know, Kyle is going out on the other side, and Joseph is going to come back in with Turner and team up with Monty and Taylor, and they're going to come straight for Michael. And I think it's possible that this could actually influence the week's decision, and they could go back or come back around to the idea of maybe we should take out Monty.
Yeah, I think I still struggle to see it, only because I think they're correct in that if they were to take the shot at Monty and then Joseph and Turner do come back in the situation, Kyle's hands are clean. Kyle got away with taking one of them out, and it wasn't even him. Michael went ahead and did the dirty work for him. And then it's Joseph and Turner versus Michael and Brittany, and they're no longer in the middle at all. And so I think their desire to ride the middle is potentially going to outweigh their like trigger finger really getting pulled here, but we'll see.
We'll see, and that's the problem, because they want to ride the middle, and ideally the middle means that Joseph leaves and Jasmine leaves. That's always been the plan. But part of it was that they were planning to test Monty's relationship with them this week. They were trying to feel out how Monty felt about them, and this might be them learning how Monty feels about them. And I think the problem is that it's sort of like it's a little bit like a prisoner's dilemma, a little bit like a rock paper scissors kind of deal right here, where it's like, okay, us taking out Jasmine and them taking out Joseph is a win. Us taking out Jasmine and them taking out Kyle is a lose. Us taking out Monty and them taking out Kyle is a win. Us taking out Monty and them taking out Joseph, that's a loss. And now all of a sudden, what happens on the other side really could influence and matter what's happening here. Now, they are reasonably certain that Kyle will take the shot, but of course, they don't know if Joseph, like, for all they know, Joseph won the veto. And then maybe the backup is Kyle. Maybe the backup is Alyssa. Maybe it's Turner. A whole host of things could happen there on the other side. And so I don't know. I'm pretty sure at the very least that there is going to be a conversation about this when Brittany tells Michael, assuming she does, and I think that she will, about this information. They are, I think, going to reconsider at the very least and talk through their options once again. Now, knowing what I know, I think they need Monty desperately in the game, because Kyle is really just like consolidating his power outside. Like the doors are shut and he's like rounding up the troops. He's getting Turner to be okay with the shot being taken. He's getting Terrence on board. Alyssa is behind him, and he's like standing at the door, like ready for the gates to come open and charge. And he's going to charge into whoever the biggest target is on that other side. And if Monty isn't there, that target is going to be Michael, in my opinion. I think that he will go straight for Michael, and Michael can't compete in that HOH. So you know, he's then got Brittany, Jasmine, and Taylor to back him up, and that's not like nothing, but I'd much rather have Monty than Jasmine on my side, both as a competitive threat and as a target in front of me. So he really, I think, needs Monty in the game, and I think he recognizes that that is a danger. He's talked about it before. Like, if Kyle does take the shot, that's why he didn't want to take the shot at Monty himself, because he is worried that that could happen with Kyle. But again, now that he knows he can't really trust Monty, especially if Joseph is still in the game, he might consider something else. Now, I do still think he will land on keeping Monty. I do think he will. But that conversation it's probably going to happen. The problem is, this is when the feeds went down, and they have been down all night. And so, if this conversation happened, we did not see it, and we have no idea where they stand at this time with the situation.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough. I still feel like for Michael, being such a big threat really needs almost to play this part of the game a little safe. I think that for Brittany, sure, it makes sense to take a big swing and like potentially shake it up, and she could end up in a good position. But for Michael, like, things need to kind of keep going on the course they're on, or at least that he expects them to go on. Otherwise, he's exposed like in every direction anyway, almost. So I think that like Joseph comes back and Kyle doesn't. That's bad, but I don't think it's as bad as like you're stuck with Jasmine as your fighter instead.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do think that's the conclusion they'll come to. I do think that, again, I think the biggest thing is that Monty is talking about doing this at 5, which technically doesn't break the terms of the contract, right? And he's heard before that Monty wanted to take him out at 7. Now it's 5. He's done good work to get himself a couple of steps further. And 7 versus 5 is huge, especially for a player like Michael, who could absolutely win out from 5. So, I think that this is why I do think that the decision still should come down on keeping Monty, because Monty has never proven to be somebody that is going to break from the contract. Even if Kyle is gone, I don't think that Joseph and Monty team up and take a shot right at Michael. I think that it is going to be at the very least at Terrence first. Mm-hmm. You do have to be concerned, because this is the thing. Michael does know that those first 4 guys were together. You do have to worry about them pulling Turner back in and taking the shot at 6 or 7, I should say. Who's left? 7. Alyssa. No, they're going to take the shot at Alyssa and Terrence first. So he should. So that's the thing. Like, there should be at least 2 weeks of buffer, even if Kyle is gone. If Alyssa is gone, then I think even then you've got the info to dump on Kyle, and you've got Turner there, and you've got Terrence there. So there's still more room to play versus the doomsday scenario of taking Monty out and Kyle coming back in with this army. So I think that Michael will come to the same conclusion that we are right now, and not take the shot at Monty. The problem is that we do have a level of objectivity that is a little bit removed. And we have seen in the past that Michael gets a little bit offended when he hears that people are targeting him. And that can happen. Like, oh, what? Like, whoa, why me? Like, there's a little bit of like frustration with that can happen with players, that can cause them to lean more on the like emotional side of decision making when it comes to things like this. So obviously, we need to see this conversation. There's plenty of time before the eviction for them to go back and forth about what they want to do. As of right now, we don't know what they're going to do. We don't even know if they've had this conversation yet. Again, I'll say one more time, I do think the right call, even without knowing what happens outside, is to keep Monty. I think they will arrive at that call, especially we haven't even talked about the fact that they would need to burn Taylor in order to do this. Almost definitely. And so that's another reason to just like probably avoid that scenario. But it's intrigue. I want to know what's happening.
There definitely is intrigue. It's so funny that, like, again, Monty didn't have to say this early. Taylor didn't have to expose this to Brittany this early. And if Brittany is playing to win, then Brittany probably doesn't expose this. Yes, Michael is her better ally, and if you're playing to get to final 2, then having him there is better, but she's so much more likely, and Taylor's so much more likely to beat a Joseph in the final 3 competitions. So, like, if you are playing to win, like, that is the move, ultimately. Like, there's no world in which she beats Michael.
I agree. I don't think she's beating Michael, but I do think that, especially the way that it was talked about with Taylor, where it was like, yeah, we'll take Michael out at 5 and then be in the final 4 with Monty and Joseph, both of whom are absolutely taking Taylor over Brittany, and might even just straight up cut Brittany at 4. Like Brittany wants Michael down there, like it or not, she's pretty much tied to him, and he will keep her safe for as long as possible. The shot needs to be taken, but she would need to develop much better relationships with the people that she's going to be there with. And the problem is that Taylor already beat her to it when it comes to Monty and Joseph. So, I do see it. I pointed out that she talked to the cameras about, being willing to lose to Michael, as I think further evidence that she definitely will tell Michael this. But I also do think that she probably should tell Michael this in general. I don't think that she should allow Michael to just walk into a potential final 6 or final 5 eviction. I don't know if that really leaves Brittany anywhere close to a good spot. So we'll see. Or maybe we won't. I don't know how long the feeds will be down.
Yeah, about that.
Because really, I mean, for all we know, they're just going to keep the feeds down for the rest of the week. I mean, I don't know what they expect to do. Unless something has changed and Joseph is magically going to stay. I don't think it's going to stop. So, I don't know what they plan to do here.
Yeah, it's rough. I can't imagine them leaving down for the rest of the week. I feel like when people thought they were going to be down for even a couple days, everyone rioted, and they quickly were they'll be back up, don't worry. I think that ultimately we will see them back up. It's just how long are they going to be down, and that's concerning.
Yeah. So that's what we have from yesterday. Anything else that we should bring up, Scally?
No, I feel like we did cover this. I feel like we often talk about how the game at 5 is so reliant on competitions, and that's ultimately what we have here is 2 games of 5 going on. But especially the inside, as we've been talking about, has managed to keep it very interesting and not solely based on that.
Yes, well, that's what we have for you then. We will, of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 24 live feeds, assuming we get anything. I mean, if there's nothing, who knows? Follow me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. Maybe there's a chance I'll tweet out look, I don't think there's going to be an update because there might not be any feeds.
First ever.
So, or maybe we'll just go live and tell you that there are no feeds. Either way, I'm giving you a warning. If there's no update tomorrow, it's because the feeds never turned back on. We'll see what happens there. But of course, you can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, hanging out, playing some Goose Goose Duck today, having some fun with that. And then, of course, there will be an episode tonight. You can join me live on Twitch, watching the episode, having fun with that. And then, of course, after the episode, for a recap here on RHAP as a podcast. So check all of that out. Check out the Among Us videos I've been dropping. Fun Jester round recently went up. And we've got some House of the Dragon coverage coming very soon. So make sure you're tuning into the post-show recaps feed as well if you want to hear me talk about some Game of Dragons. All right. Scally, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Brian_Scally. Anything I'm doing, especially anything out of the regular, I'll post there. Talking about Love Island, which is still going on, still going strong. Over on the wrap-ups with Kirsten twice a week. That's on Peacock, been a lot of fun. Also talking about the Challenge USA over on the Dom and Colin podcast, which has been a lot of fun as well.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.